Hi there. How are you today, my beautiful, beautiful beings? So much beautiful information has been coming through in the last few weeks from the courses that we've been putting together for you. The last few have been courses for fear, anger, and pain. And today, in these next few videos, we wanted to share some of that beautiful information. There was something I'd forgotten, and I can't remember which one of the books it was about that had to do with pain, and it was such a beautiful analogy explaining pain. So in this beautiful video, that's what we want to start with. And the analogy was, when you fall down, when you're a child, and say you're riding your bike and you fall down, or you're just running and you fall down and you cut yourself, say you have a big gash on your knee and your parents have to rush you off to hospital to get stitches. The gash is that big. In the moment that you fall down, you feel physical pain. In the moment that they're placing the stitches into your knee, or wherever it is that you fell down, you feel that physical pain. And perhaps for a few days after the incident, you will feel pain until it heals. But what happens from that event that you fell down? Now you are going to have a visible scar on your knee. Every time you look at that scar throughout your life now, it reminds you of that event of when you fell down. It creates that memory. Oh, I remember that. That's when I fell down. And people ask you, what happened there? That you have a scar. Oh, I fell down. I fell off my bike, or I was running and I fell. And I ended up at the hospital and I needed stitches. There's a whole story that goes with it. But after the event, months later, years later, when you look at the scar or people ask you about that scar, you can tell the story of what happened. It's a reminder, but you don't feel the pain over and over. Every time you look at that scar, you don't relive that pain. You just remember, oh, that's what happened. And yes, it was painful at the time, but not now. It's just something that happened. You have no attachment to it, no emotional attachment to it. Perhaps it created a fear that now you no longer want to ride your bike. Because if it happens again, you know what pain you'll need to go through, or you'll have to go through. So for some, it may create a fear that you no longer want to ride your bike. Mostly we fall off and we get back on. We don't care how bad the accident was when it comes to riding bikes or running and falling. And, as kids, we just keep doing it. It was just, it happened, It happened quite recently to my daughter. It wasn't that long ago. Would have been about 6 months ago that she was riding to school with a friend and she fell off her bike. And I had to take her to the hospital because there were gashes everywhere. We didn't know she'd need stitches or not. But now she looks at the physical scars and remembers that day and remembers the tears. Oh, it was so painful. But you don't get to relive that pain over and over every time you look at the scar. And yet, this is what we do with our internal scars, with our emotional scars. When we go through events in our childhood, especially events that are repeated over and over, like my mum smacking me, it creates an emotional scar inside. And all of these beautiful courses that we are creating, all the books that I've been guided to share with you, are to help you release the emotional charge that is still attached. Because with our emotional scars, every time we remember what happened, we do relive the pain. There's an emotional charge on those events. There's an attachment still to those events. And the beautiful process of awakening, of realizing that you are spirit in human form, realizing that your soul chose those beautiful experiences. It wanted to know, what does it feel like to go through that? When you begin to awaken, you begin to become self-aware and return to the beautiful love that you are. You'll notice, you'll feel within yourself there's less and less charge when you remember those events. Just like the bike when you fell off. You can look at that scar, you can look at that event and not relive the pain. This is possible. This is what awakening brings. So, my beautiful beings, I was reminded, this beautiful analogy was given to me. I think it was in Covered in Yucky Mucky Mud. It's the first time that shows up. That to return to the love that we are is to be able to look at everything we've been through and not feel that pain anymore. Not feel that fear anymore. And not feel the anger that those events created within us. All we see is love. All we see is the beings around us have been serving us the whole time. That's all that's ever been happening. They've been serving us and we've been serving them in their human experience. So, what happens with emotional scars is that we create beliefs about ourselves. We create beliefs about the world. For me, every time my mum would come and smack me, after many, many times of this new pattern in my life, because it wasn't there before my sister was born. It began after her birth. And so I had this anger towards my sister that it was her fault that I was getting smacked all the time. Because I was never smacked before that. There was no need. And so there's the anger. It's her fault that I have to get smacked. There's the resentment towards this being. Then there was the fear of this large woman coming towards me to smack me, knowing the pain that I was going to endure physically at her hand. And knowing that I couldn't stop it. I had no control as a little one, as a child. This was the experience, all the experiences that were created in my childhood. But the beliefs that came out of all of that was that this is not a safe world. Because the people that are supposed to keep you safe are the ones that are creating the pain. Are the ones that are making you feel that you're in danger. The beliefs that were created was that I wasn't a good person. Because if I was a good girl, she wouldn't be smacking me. She wouldn't need to yell at me. Therefore, I'm a bad girl. I'm a bad person. All these beliefs we create about ourselves. And so as you go through life, whenever people make you feel that you're a bad person or that you're not good enough some way, I wasn't good enough for my mum's love. I spent most of my life thinking she didn't love me. Most of it. She loved my sister. That to me was obvious. They were so similar. I could see how she loved my sister, but I couldn't feel her love for me. I couldn't feel it. I thought once my sister was born, I felt abandoned. I thought she just didn't want me anymore, my mum. She didn't need me anymore. I felt cast aside, you know, like a toy. You get a new toy and you no longer want to play with the old one. At the age of 5, that's how I felt. And so there's all of that happening, feeling abandoned, feeling unwanted, feeling unloved, all the things that were coming up for me as a little one that I carried throughout my adult life. And every time someone would make me feel unwanted, unloved, invisible, my anger would flare up, or I would get upset. Because none of those things made me feel good inside about who I was in the world. So, my beautiful beings, what happens? There's a choice in every moment. We can choose to continue on this path. Continue on the path that when people bring all of this up in you, you can continue to feel angry. You can continue to feel afraid. You can continue to feel hurt, upset, offended. Or you can choose to understand why that pain is there, why that fear is there, why the anger is there, how it was created from the view of the soul, your soul. Why is it there? And when you begin to ask those questions from the point of view of the soul, what was I meant to gain from that experience? What was I meant to gain? You know, 2 years ago, I went to see my mum and dad, only to be rejected one more time by my mum. And I came back to Australia. They're in South America. I came back to Australia, and I came back with this heaviness in my heart. And after a couple of weeks, I realized that it wasn't mine. I had brought back their pain in my heart. That's what I was feeling. And over the course of the months after that trip, and them deciding now that they're not talking to me, I realized the gift of that rejection. My whole life, I had been waiting to receive this love from my mum, to feel loved by my mum, my whole life. And in that moment, her last rejection, I was given the greatest gift of all. Because that's when I realized over the coming months after that I came back and I thought, what was the point of that trip? I spent all that money to go and see them because I thought being there in person, apologizing in person would make the difference. I could make amends and we could move forward in the space of love together. But that is not their path. That is not what they came to experience. And I have to respect that. I have to allow that. It's not my journey. But the gift I was given, which is the greatest gift of all when you understand it, is that the love you are searching for is not out there. It's not in your partner. It's not in your children. Because for the longest time, I thought when I become a mother, I will be whole and complete. That love will finally be received. My love would finally be received. And I love my daughter dearly. We have a beautiful bond, a gorgeous connection. But the moment she was born, nothing changed inside of me, no matter how much I loved her. And as the months passed, I was getting angrier and angrier. Frustrated. My frustration was becoming bigger and bigger. That nothing changed. All those years, over 15 years, waiting for this child to come into my life so that my life would be a rainbow. And she came and nothing changed inside of me. For me, that was it. That was the moment. And months later, after her birth, a conversation with my husband would be the beginning of my awakening. We were having a conversation about my mum. I must have been on the phone with them, with my parents, and came off the phone and was just talking to my husband about something, who knows what was coming up at the time. And he said to me, "You're still looking at your mum like you're 5 years old." And in that moment, I didn't understand what he said, and it made me even more angry. What is he saying, that I'm a child? That I'm looking at her like a child? I haven't grown up? This was the initial interpretation. But that comment stayed with me because it was important for my path. For months, I kept thinking about it. What does that mean? What does that even mean? Until one day it hit me. I was still looking at my mum as if I was 5 years old. I hadn't gone past that point of pain, of when I was rejected, of when I was abandoned, of when I was cast aside. I was still living in that moment every day of my life, angry that a new being had come to the world and I had been tossed aside. Hurt. I remember my mum telling this story. We went to the butcher's one morning and my sister was a baby. She would have been 6 months old. She wasn't talking or walking yet. She was little, in the pram. And the butcher asked me, "How do you feel about your new sister? Are you excited?" And I said to the butcher, I said, "I don't care. I have my dad." That was the comment. And my mum would say that like she was so proud that I now have my dad, like I'd lost everything else. I don't think she realized what she was saying when she was telling that story. My bond with my dad grew from there, but then that was taken away as well when I was sent to Catholic school. Because my mum just couldn't understand our relationship, and because she didn't have the same with my sister, she created a rift between us. Made me feel bad about loving him the way I did. Made me feel that it was wrong. And so I was punished. I was sent to Catholic school. All of these things that we go through happen for us. And when you understand that it happens for you, so that you can have this beautiful human experience, then you can begin to look at those events, those moments, those pivotal moments that changed everything for you in your childhood. And all you see is love, and all you feel is love for these beings that did all these things for you, that you could have this experience. Can you imagine if all you had was love growing up? You never had a moment of pain, of suffering. What would your life be like? All those moments make you who you are in your human experience. All of them. All the pain, all the suffering, all the fear, all the anger, every single event have made you who you are today, have given you this beautiful wisdom inside, this beautiful knowledge of what that feels like. You know what it feels like to go through that. Your soul is so grateful for you. Spirit is so grateful for you, because everything you go through, Spirit experiences as well. All the knowledge you gain, Spirit gains. So, my beautiful beings, everything that you have been through is sacred. Everything you've been through is divine. And our desire with all of this is that one day you too can feel that way. That when you look at these beautiful moments in your life, you feel love for the life you've had. You feel love for the person you are today. All right, my beautiful beings, it is possible. This is what it is to be awakened. I love you guys. Remember to click like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the messages. And share these beautiful videos. Who knows whose heart may be touched by this message today. Bye for now.